The glass slipped from my hand and shattered against the tiled floor, the sound splitting the air like a gunshot. I didn't move. I couldn't. Her words hung there, thick, venomous, almost unreal. "I'm having your brother's child," she repeated, her voice calm, almost practiced. "And you'll just have to accept it." For a second, I thought the world had tilted. The refrigerator's low hum filled the silence, and my pulse hammered against my ribs like a trapped animal. She just stood there, hands folded over her belly, eyes locked on mine, unblinking. It was raining outside. The storm had been gathering all afternoon, heavy clouds pressing against the windows. Now thunder rolled somewhere far off, as if the universe itself had overheard her confession and reacted in disbelief. I'd noticed things, of course. Little things that didn't add up but never screamed betrayal. The way she lingered on her phone longer than usual. The private smiles. The growing distance between us, not physical, but in the air, like a draft you can't locate but always feel. And then there was Daniel. My younger brother. Charming, spontaneous, reckless in that golden boy way that made people forgive him before he even did anything wrong. He'd always been the opposite of me. Where I planned, he improvised. Where I spoke carefully, he lived without filter. He'd been spending more time at our house lately. Said he was trying to get his life together. I believed him. He'd sit on our couch with a beer, teasing Emma while she laughed too freely. I'd watch, a dull ache tightening in my chest, telling myself it was jealousy of their friendship, not suspicion. How wrong I was. "You can't mean that," I said finally, my voice trembling as much as my hands. She didn't flinch. "I do." "Emma." I stepped closer, desperate for a crack in her calm, but she pulled back, as if my touch burned her. "How long? Does it matter?" The question landed like a slap. "Of course it matters," I snapped. "You're my wife. He's my brother." Her eyes softened, almost pitying. "We didn't plan it. It just happened." The phrase twisted my gut. That cheap excuse. That hollow justification people use when they want their sins to sound like accidents. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't pleading. She looked resolute. Like she'd already crossed some invisible line and had no intention of coming back. I walked to the sink, gripping the counter to keep from falling apart. Inside, everything was collapsing in slow motion. The memories, the trust, the quiet, ordinary love I thought we shared. The wedding vows, the lazy Sunday mornings, the whispered apologies after fights, they flickered through my mind like film reels melting in a projector. I wanted to scream. To throw something. To demand she tell me it was all a lie. But instead, I just whispered, "Why him?" She hesitated. For the first time, her composure cracked. "Because he listens," she said quietly. "Because when I started feeling invisible, he noticed." Her words were knives, clean and deliberate. I turned to face her. "You think this is love?" Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I don't know what it is. All I know is, when I found out I was pregnant, it didn't feel wrong." That broke me. 4 days afterward, I moved through the house like a ghost. She slept in the guest room. I stopped answering Daniel's calls. Every time I looked at her, all I could see was him. His hands, his smile, his shadow lying between us in the bed we once shared. At night, I'd stare at the ceiling, haunted by the memory of her voice. That steady, merciless tone when she told me to accept it. Accept it. The phrase echoed in my head until it became unbearable. One evening, Daniel showed up. Unannounced, as always. I opened the door before he could knock. He looked nervous, unshaven, eyes darting past me toward the living room where Emma sat pretending to read. "Can we talk?" he asked. "No," I said. "Please, just hear me out." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The autumn air was sharp, carrying the scent of wet leaves and regret. He rubbed his face. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, man. I swear." I almost laughed. That's what she said too. He dropped his hands, eyes glassy. "I love her." The words hit harder than any punch could. For a moment, I imagined lunging at him, driving my fists into his face until he felt what I felt, betrayal in its purest, ugliest form. But instead, I just stared. You love her, I said slowly, and you destroyed everything that ever made us brothers. He flinched, looking away. That night, I packed a bag. Emma didn't stop me. She just watched from the hallway, her arms wrapped protectively around her belly. I didn't want it to end like this, she said softly. It ended the moment you let him touch you, I replied. The silence that followed was suffocating. When I reached the door, she said something I'll never forget. I hope someday you can forgive me. I paused. Forgive you? I turned, meeting her gaze one last time. No, Emma. I hope someday you understand what you've destroyed. Then I left. Weeks later, Daniel called again. I didn't answer. I heard through our mother that they'd moved in together. That the baby was healthy. That they'd named her Grace. Sometimes, I wonder if she has my eyes. I tell myself I've moved on, but the truth is simpler, crueler. Some betrayals don't heal, they just scab over until something reminds you, and the bleeding starts all over again. Every time I look in the mirror, I see traces of my brother. The same jawline. The same blood. And I think of how easily love can turn into something unrecognizable. How the people closest to you can destroy you, not out of hatred, but out of need, loneliness, or a desperate hunger to feel alive. And maybe that's the worst part of betrayal. It doesn't end with the truth. It lingers, in your bones, in your silence, in every reflection that looks a little too familiar.